Ooh, the farmer in the dell, the farmer in the dell. Hi ho, the dairy-o, the farmer's in the dell. Good song, huh? Good cookie. This is a J-Lu cookie. Notice how thick this one is and yummy. And this is my Captain America cup. Thank you, daughter. And coffee by Sherry. So, anyway, I want to talk to you this morning about spring. You know, this is the time of year when people start going outside. They want to do a little gardening or planting, or beautifying the outside. And it's really a smart idea. Good cookie. Great coffee. But here's something most people don't really understand. It's like 80 degrees today. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be really nice, great for working outside. But the moment we get the first real rain, we got weeds. That's right, weeds. And I know this is Colorado. That was humor. But we got weeds. And weeds have a tendency to choke out everything you ever wanted to plant. You ever have a bindweed in your yard? You can't walk through without tripping because it wraps itself around your feet? That's not good. Or dandelions. They look so pretty when they're bloomed. But the moment they're done, they turn to a ball of fuzz. The wind blows, and then you got a million dandelions. So anyway, weeds. Here's some scripture for you. And this is spiritually speaking, of course. On the same day, this is, by the way, Matthew 13, starting verse 1. On the same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the sea, and a great multitude were gathered together to him. So that he got up into a boat and sat, and the whole multitude stood on the shore. Then he spoke many things to them in a parable, saying, Behold, a sower went out to sow. And he sowed some seed, and it fell on the wayside, and the birds came and devoured them. Some fell on stony places, where they did not have much soil, and they immediately sprang up because they had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, and they were scorched, and because they had not root, they withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns sprang up and choked them, weeds. But others fell on good ground and yielded a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. He was ears to hear, ears to hear, ears to hear. Let him hear. Here's the thing about weeds. Weeds in your life are going to rob you of the nourishment you need in other areas. That's what happens with weeds. You get weeds in your garden, next thing you know, they're sucking up all the nutrients in the soil and robbing the plants you intentionally planted from being able to prosper as much as they should or could. So there's a reality here we need to understand. Weeds are bad. No, weed is bad. Colorado. I think I first recognized this when studying the book of Jonah. And it says in Jonah that when they threw him overboard, the weeds wrapped themselves around his head, hold him down, choke him out. He was only delivered by the hand of God, by a great fish, not a whale. A great fish. And what makes it unique is the idea the weeds, nowhere you can find in the Bible where it's a very positive statement. Weeds choke and choke out the things it should be. And we have weeds in our life. Some sins are like weeds. They wrap themselves around us, around our head, around our heart, and we can't function. We cannot produce the fruit our soul longs for. Why? Because we permitted weeds. Now, how do you deal with weeds? How do you deal with weeds? You do it simply. You pick the weeds. You pull them out. Don't let them grow. You make the space holy, that means set apart, holy for your planting that you intend. We need to plant intentionally so we can harvest intentionally. The guy goes and he plants corn, he doesn't want weeds. He plants pumpkins, he doesn't want weeds. And thus, periodically, you must go through your garden and remove the weeds. Why? Because they're going to rob that which was intentionally placed there. And sometimes in our spiritual lives, we have to deal with those weeds which are going to rob us of the things that we had intentionally planned for. I find it interesting that Yeshua says he's the gardener. John 15. Okay? He's the vine, we're the branch, all that gardening stuff. And if we don't bear fruit, John 14 and 15, if we don't bear fruit, we have no value, except to be cut off and thrown to the pile to be burned later. You plant a garden intentionally. Thus, you must protect it by weeding intentionally. You plant Yeshua in your life. You ask for the Holy Spirit to be present. You want to go to synagogue. You want to study the Holy Scriptures. All those things are intentional. And we have to avoid the weeds that would rob us of God's intended plan. For an example, it's time to go to prayer and somebody wants to chat. Tell me to call them back later. You'll talk a little later. That's fine. Time to study the Bible. And oh no, somebody needs something. You have to kind of figure out what is important, God, and what is urgent, their need. Unless it's truly an urgent matter. Life, death, bleeding. Okay. Pay attention to what you're supposed to be doing above everything else. You must weed the garden. Let your whole world know that from 11 to 12, that's my God time. Please don't call. Don't knock on the door. It's my God time. And make sure you schedule your life so you can do the things that you really want to accomplish in the Lord. Don't let the weeds take over. I talk about that bindweed. That's the worst stuff. It really is. It's a creepy, crawly weed, and it'll just take up your whole yard in a matter of. And if that isn't bad enough, there's goat heads, rightly named. They're very demonic. You step on it, and oh man, the pain. You can't afford the weeds. You don't want the weeds. You don't want to afford the weeds. Don't give in to the weed. Oh man, on a roll this morning. You see, God placed Adam in the garden to tend to the garden. We must tend to the garden also. This garden first. Before we do anything else, this garden first. Remove the weeds. If you have an addiction, you have a weed. If you have an obsession, you might just have a weed. If you have something that's oppressing, you have a weed. Understand? If you have a necessity that's not a necessity, I'm sure you have a weed somewhere. So, what am I trying to say this morning? Take care of your garden. Let it prosper. Let it grow in the Lord. Because I like that part. It produced 60, 30, 100-fold. You want a return on your investment? Weed your garden. Because return could be 30, 60, or even 100 times more than what you anticipated. But if we let the weeds choke out the good things of God in our life, that's not good. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in the world today. It's not good. wars, rumors of wars, and all that. It's real. It was written in the book thousands of years ago, but it's among us today. And I think every generation must have a time in which wars and rumors of wars pop up. But we got people talking about World War III, including Putin. Fact check that. Okay. But I'm more concerned about what's going on in the hearts and the minds of the believers today. Fear is a weed. Fearful for tomorrow is a weed, because my confidence is in the Lord that He will provide my every need. I will be wise. I really will. And I will stockpile a little bit of this and take care of that. But in the end, it's always going to be the Lord who tends to take care of us. The fear that I'm finding in Christians and Messianics and Jews, people on the street, is overwhelming. It really is like bindweed, binding up the hearts and the minds of people. Don't let it happen. Preach the good news. Weed the garden. Share the Lord. At least in our little corner of the world, things will get better. We may not affect the whole world, but we can affect our world by the love of God, by the sharing of and the testimony of Yeshua the Messiah. Our part of the world will be a garden once again, and not a belagan of weeds. Well, this week, on Thursday night at 6 o'clock, we're talking about the power of redemption. The power of redemption. That is a must-see program. If you've lost things and you can't find them, and I'm talking about spiritual things, of course, maybe you need to tune in and see what the power of redemption has to do with you, and how you and I, can work in the ministry of redemption by the power of the Spirit of God. How cool is that? But that's Thursday night, 6 o'clock, YouTube or Facebook. Your choice. I like having options, don't you? Now, you need to support your church, your parish, your ministry. I'm going to tell you, inflation's taking a toll. It's taking a toll on your community. It's taking a toll, I know, on you and on your church, your parish, your synagogue. And push comes to shove, it's what it's heading towards. We're already in double-digit inflation. They may not want to tell you that, but go to the internet, do the search yourself. Double-digit inflation. It's only going to get worse. But by God's good grace, we'll all make it. But you need to be faithful. And then, not just in the giving aspect, but in the participation aspect. We need to be faithful and come alongside of our leadership and serving in the ministry ourselves. You might not think of it, but the person who mops the floor of the synagogue is serving the Lord Most High. One doing the dishes serves the Lord Most High just as much as the rabbi behind the bema, the pastor behind the pulpit. So, all things work to good when we obey Him who called us. So, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. You got my drift. And by the way, talking about working for good, we need you to hit the like button. We need you to hit the share button or to subscribe. All those things build our status and moves us up the chain on our platforms, maybe Facebook or maybe YouTube. And together we can reach more people with the Lord. Okay, if you just help a little bit. Subscribe, hit the like button, hit the share button, and together we can make a difference. So may God bless you and keep you, cause face shine upon you, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.